Cape Town.
Why is it Cape Town?
I don't know. I'll do a different one. I'll say, think of another capital. Hello, Wellington.
No, how about
Big in Wellington.
Reykjavik?
I like Reykjavik. I've been to Reykjavik. It's nice. I went there for 2 days. Hello, Reykjavik, and welcome to the Four Takes Movie Podcast. My name's Martin.
I'm Luke.
I'm David.
And I'm Adam.
Today we're talking about the 1964 movie Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, directed by some consider to be a legend of filmmaking, Stanley Kubrick.
Right, where do we start with this one?
Right, we decided to watch this movie weeks ago, but due to our own circumstances, it's been weeks since we've been able to do it, so it's been probably about a month since I've watched it. I've seen it before, though, so I think I've got enough. I've taken no notes because I'm not a Jesse, so I just like to wing it.
How's your notes coming on, David?
Fine.
So I have to say I do enjoy this movie. I don't rate it as highly as I think a lot of people do. People consider it a proper masterpiece, and I think it is it's a very good political and sort of wartime satire, a black comedy as well.
It's what you would consider an important film.
It is an important movie because I think
it's not the greatest of entertainment pieces.
No, but it's definitely got its funny points. It's definitely trying to punch home the fact that nuclear war is ridiculous if we ever get into it. There is no reason to start a nuclear war because it's over if it happens. And that's the whole idea of the movie, isn't it? It's trying to do it in a funny way, but it's a big load of bullshit if it happens, and then we've all had it basically. Yeah, true. That's the bell rung.
I mean, the general premise about some general somewhere going absolutely mental is totally feasible, totally possible. That's why, the Americans have got, the big red button.
Yeah.
Nuclear football.
The
football, and the Russians have got a similar system. The British, however, do not.
No, the British
you literally can have a bloke on a submarine just to go, you know what? I've had enough. I've had enough of this job. Boom. And blow to take out the country.
Well, it is. It's because that's the only way. Or just so anyone who doesn't know, we are British. If our northern British accents throw you off because we don't sound like Pride and Prejudice, we are British. But the British nuclear system is basically based on 4 nuclear submarines that patrol the waters and there's at least one out there at any one time, and no one knows where it is.
Are you giving out secrets here?
They're called the Vanguard submarines. They each carry 16 Trident Type 3 missiles, can travel at Mach 23, I think. And each one of those submarines can destroy any country in the world. But
makes you proud to be British.
But yeah, that's so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, a lot of other countries, bigger nuclear powers like America or Russia, they have. I think America have what's called the nuclear triad, where it's like submarine, land-based, and air-based sort of delivery systems. So no one delivery system can be ever taken out. There's always going to be a way. Whereas Britain is basically, it's in the water somewhere. No one knows where it is until it pops up and shoots its missiles, and then it goes back under.
Well, I'd heard that they will fire the missiles if they don't hear the BBC being broadcast. Then they know it's nuclear winter, and then
there'll be something about they'll have to occasionally surface or put an antenna up to see if they can hear that things are still okay in the world. If they do, I believe in the British submarines, they have basically a letter that is written from the current Prime Minister. And that letter will give them one of 3 options. If you find out all of a sudden that there is nothing left up here, or that war has started, and you get no commands from our command structure, you've got choice. You can either, number 1, you can decide to surrender. I doubt it. I think it's surrender. You could, maybe not. It might be to surrender to an ally power. So you could take the submarine, and if America's still going, you could say, "I'm British. I'm surrendering to you because you're not going to use these nukes incorrectly." You can, I think, decide not to fire, or you can decide to fire, and it's up to either what it says on the letter or the discretion of the captain.
Yeehaw!
Wild, isn't it?
Wild. Anyway, Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, it's it is good. I watched it with the wife when we were all decided, and she thought it was okay, but not as. I think a lot of people have raved about it over the years. Came out in 1964, so it's had a lot of people talking about it and a lot of scrutiny on it. And I think it's good.
It's okay. I mean, I'd give it a 3 out of 5.
I'd give it a maybe 3.5, 4 out of 5, max.
But it's because the reason why it's so revered is because it's a Kubrick film, and
Apparently, that was the only comedy he's ever done.
well, the film is totally impossible without Peter Sellers. It would just be. Can you imagine if Peter Sellers wasn't in it, and you tried to make that film? It would be something completely different. It wouldn't have any sort of comedic aspects. It wouldn't be funny. It'd be a more serious drama. And actually, when you look at the film, you could make that film now, and it would be a super cheap film to make because there's very little in it in terms of locations and sets and things like that.
Wow.
There's a model of a plane.
Yeah, it is
And that's
literally
about
a model of a plane as well. There is a film that came out in, I can't remember, it's 98 or 99. It was a TV movie. Linked in a way to Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove because James L. Jones is one of the operators of the is it a B-52 bomber or something like that?
Yeah, B-52.
He plays maybe a communications officer or something like that. I don't know, but there's another film that came out in 89 or 90 called By Dawn's Early Light, and it's a very similar movie, but without any of the comedy about a nuclear bomber that's been sent on a bomb run, and then it's about the two sides trying to turn the war off. It's a more serious, like, we can't escalate this. This is getting out of control. We've got to slow this down type of thing. So not as, but James L. Jones is in that as well. And I remember when I watched Stanley Kubrick, I didn't click until I watched it again this time that he's done 2 movies where he's basically been in a nuclear plane type of thing. But that's another movie which I think was relatively cheaply done. But that I personally think that's a better movie. Controversial. By Dawn's Early Light, TV movie from either the late 80s or the early 90s with, I think Martin Landau plays the president. James L. Jones is like a commander of one of these like communications planes. Like they send up the 2 planes that keep the government in order while the rest of the world's getting flattened, basically. Yeah, solid movie, to be honest. Well, one worth watching.
Well, I mean, the original film was based on a book, which was not funny. It was, and apparently Stanley Kubrick read this book and went, "Oh my God, this is horrendous." And I think it was just off the back of the Cuban Missile Crisis as well. So so everyone was on edge about potentially something going wrong, and this book came out, and then Stanley Kubrick and this other guy had written a script to turn the book into a film, and it turned out with Peter Sellers and all the comedic things going on, it was supposed to emphasize the ridiculousness of it all. It's not shot like a comedy. It's all in black and white. It looks very serious. If you look at a still from any part of this film, it looks like a serious film. But when you watch the film, you go, this is just completely balmy, because that's what it is. It's all just balmy. It's like the whole situation is completely crazy. And that situation where the one general decides to go off piste and go, you know what, we can't trust the politicians anymore. We're just going to have to take this in our own hands. They don't understand war like I understand war.
And you've got to protect that precious water.
And you've got to protect that. And so I listened to an interesting take on it last night, and I think this is probably correct, where it's all about impotence.
What have you been reading?
No. because
Luke may be projecting.
Because you've got General Jack D. Ripper, and he notices during the physical act of love that he can't. His life force has been sapped, and he can't rise to the occasion. So he decides, rather than it being a fault with him, because he's a man in his 50s or 60s, it couldn't possibly be his fault. It's the Ruskies.
Yeah.
And they're poisoning the water and the fluoridating and all this. So it's not him, it's them. And then he goes off on a tangent, what was it? Purity of essence and peace on earth and all that. Puts them together and goes, I've got to kill everybody.
I actually forgot the bit in the film about the fluoride in the water. Mm-hmm. And that's like a big thing in America at the moment about the fluoride in the water.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's obviously been an issue in America since...
decades, isn't it?
Well, there was, and mentioned in the film, they say in the film it started at the end of the Second World War.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that's true or not, but...
Seems a sensible thing to keep your teeth right, doesn't it?
Well, there's a lot of humming and hawing about whether it impacts the development of
the brain,
of cognitive abilities. Yeah, is it actually? It's making people's teeth decay slower, but are you actually dumbing your population down so they become more subservient and blah 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 and all of these conspiracy theories? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Silent, obedient consent.
Right, but no. When I was when I watched it, I thought to myself, obviously you've got to think about the person, because I was thinking, who on earth?
Adam watched this pissed, by the way.
I wasn't. I was just merely sort of like
Mary.
So when Peter Sellers was around 1960s, right? It makes you think of all of the politics that was going on around that time, because you said he read, obviously got some ideas from the book, but if you think about it, if you were going to go and write a script for a book, or if you're going to write a story to put into a film, you would think, well, where am I going to pull all of my inspiration from? And it does sound as if the politics of back then was heavily drafted into what he ended up producing.
Well, that's probably where the book pulled it from as well, but
I cannot understand.
Obviously, he'll put his own stamp on it.
I can't understand. He found someone just as mad to prove the point that he managed to go and get funding to have this produced and put in theatres and just go, look.
Well, I imagine if someone like Stanley Kubrick comes up to you and goes, I want to do a film, it's going to be funny, but it's not meant to be funny. They'll probably just go, aye, whatever you want, Stanley.
This was the early 60s when he started production on this, before 64, obviously. That's when it was released. So I'm not sure what he had out before that. He'd probably done Lolita. Maybe, what was that one? What was that one with Kirk Douglas where it was World War one? Was it Path to Glory or something like that?
I'm going to look on IMDb.
I have a look. I've left my phone in the house, so I've got no way of Googling.
I did do some research on this, and apparently the original release date for the film was supposed to be on the same day Kennedy was assassinated.
It was.
Yeah. But it was then delayed, so it was delayed till January.
Was it 63?
It was 63, it was original date.
November 22nd.
Aye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right, Martin. Just right before this, it was a little later than Paths of Glory before that.
Had you done anything else?
He did 3 of the films, The Killing, Killer's Kiss, Flying Padre. That was a short.
So let's be honest, at this point in his career, he's probably he's not as potentially as well regarded as he would have been going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, what was his next film after that? Because it might. He's not too far away from doing Space Odyssey. Yeah, I was just thinking that, which is unbelievable how good that film looks even now.
You cannot believe it was made when it was made.
Yeah, I was like,
because it looks
like Interstellar at points. I'm like, this looks amazing.
It looks totally believable. I mean, it was well before Star Wars.
Oh yeah. What, Star Wars 79?
Yeah.
So it's a good decade and a bit probably before that. 67 maybe?
68.
I was a year out. Crap. This not Google thing's killing me. I'm having to use my brain.
But the films are listed, that's where the credits Kubrick as a writer, not as a director. Those are the films he wrote.
All right.
Because he did Spartacus.
Yeah. He
directed Spartacus.
Did he? That's a new. I didn't know that, so that's a new one for me. I've got that in the house as well. I'll have to watch it at some point.
That's a really good film as well.
I haven't seen it in years.
No, that I'm Spartacus.
He's done a couple of films with Kirk Douglas then, because Paths to Glory was Kirk Douglas as well, I think. Or Path to Glory.
I haven't seen it.
It's quite a bleak movie at the end, from what I can remember.
Apparently, Kubrick used to spend years researching stuff, like properly years. You know, like cue cards and stuff where he'd have where he'd plan everything. Apparently, 2001 Space Odyssey, one of the reasons why it's so good is because he just spent like maybe 10 years just researching space and what would happen and every aspect of everything.
I'll have to watch it at some point. We might even watch it for one of these podcasts, but who knows?
The research definitely does show through in the quality of his work, though.
Oh yeah,
because it's like it's like mind-bendingly good. But I think that's down to the cinematographer as well, because whoever did the shots for a lot of that were just like, you know.
You're not wrong, actually. Obviously, it's a team effort making a movie, but one thing I did notice when I watched it again, there's Dr. Strangelove, the bit where the Americans are storming the base that this mad general's in. Mm-hmm. A lot of the shots of that were really well filmed and quite gritty for that time. You know, it's 1964, and a lot of it reminded me of Full Metal Jacket. Mm-hmm. Some of the battle scenes in that.
That's one of the things you can notice about if you actually watch the film again, because as I say, I watched it last night again to refresh myself. It looks so good. It looks so crisp, the footage. It looks like it could have been filmed yesterday.
But that's film, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Film is a great medium
amazing.
for quality, but yeah.
And when you look at the sets, I mean, obviously the War Room set is like a totally iconic film set.
It's huge as well.
And it's used whenever someone makes a film now and they show a War Room in film, they always
very much parody, isn't
do you know that there was no such place as the War Room, and when Ronald Reagan got into office, he asked where the War Room was in the White House, and they went, "We don't have one." That was just in Dr. Strangelove.
But whenever they show anything like that in a film, it's always based on Dr. Strangelove, big round table, the big board.
Yeah.
Well, probably the closest you get to
big board.
Probably the closest you'll get to a war room in real life. You remember when they killed Osama?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was a picture of like Obama at the head of like a table with about 7 or 8 people around him. That's probably about as in depth as a war room gets.
Looked like an Ibis rental office.
Aye.
It's like totally pathetic.
Just like renting a room for a tech startup or something like that. It just looked like that.
I think it's one of those things where for the cinematic purposes as well at the time, you've got to sit and think, this, like, iconically, this is a big thing. This is like nuclear war. You're sitting there thinking, this is nuclear. It's got to be driven by grand decisions, and that the room does not...
Well, that's the point of the film. I think it's not driven by grand decisions. It's driven by
idiots,
bad decisions, and idiots. And I think that's the point of the movie: is that going into nuclear war would be the dumbest decision anyone ever made.
Yeah. But getting back to the whole impotence thing, right?
Obsessed.
He's really leaning on this one.
But you've got.
Don't flop now.
You've got Peter Sellers' character, the president, and all that. So and it starts to turn into like a bit of a pissing contest about the ultimate weapon, and you know, what's the point of having an ultimate weapon if you're not going to tell people you've got it? But also near the end, where they kind of go, right, okay, it's all over. We can't get this plane back.
Talking about the mine thing.
Talking about the mines, and then it all turns to sex. And yeah.
It does. He's totally right, because then what's his name? The third Peter Sellers character, who's that ex-Nazi, comes out and talks
Obviously
about
Werner von Braun.
And when he gets,
could you not filmed on him?
And when he gets, and so when Dr. Strangelove gets really excited, he snaps a Nazi salute, which is in replacement of another form of excitement.
No, I think you were thinking too much. Look, you are obsessed.
No, it is.
It is literally that's just the mask slipping of who the man is, which is why you'll see it. He says, "My Führer." I mean, Mr. President.
Yeah. But the whole Nazi salute thing is that's his excitement.
I always think the funniest bit of that whole bit with him is with that particular character is a bit where he's rooting around in his pocket trying to find this little maths wheel so he can work out how many women to men, and then because he's like two halves, isn't he? He's got the obedient half and he's got his Nazi half, and he's rooting around in his pocket trying to find this wheel, and all of a sudden the other hand brings it up to him and he's like
yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Have you noticed the Russian ambassador
Yeah.
If you watch him in the background, the Russian ambassador sees Dr. Strangelove hitting himself in the arm, and he starts laughing, and like you can see, he's starting to corpse, and and he does it once, and then there's another bit where he does something similar again, and you see him start to smile and just cuts, and it moves to another shot, and I'm thinking, he ruined that shot.
He ruined that shot. Huh?
I mean, it's amazing how many TV shows and films, when they're dealing with war, they always make it a comedy, because you're like Dad's Army and Hello Hello.
No one would watch it if it was too serious.
And more recently, you got Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's just because they're trying to get more people into the theatre. Because if you think about it, if they can,
No, it's just an individual's artistic impression about it, isn't it? They're trying to bring a bit of levity to a otherwise pretty bloody serious subject.
With like gallows humour, isn't it? But it allows people to talk, because there was a lot of it after the Second World War where people wanted to talk about what happened, but you don't want to know at the time. It's that fresh in everybody's memory. You don't want to do it in a serious way, because it would send them over the edge. So people try and do it in a light-hearted way, so they can process it. Because really, at the time, things like all the films that came out after the Second World War about the Second World War were basically sort of like a group therapy en masse for the population. Because they obviously need to be able to talk about these things. But it just seems whenever there's a war film, you've either got two options. You can make it totally. Well, no. Sorry, there's three different main types. You've got films like Oppenheimer, where they are totally accurate, totally serious, and it's basically done as if it was a documentary. And then you've got other films where it basically just tries to make things gratuitous for entertainment purposes.
Like your Hacksaw Ridge and stuff.
Yeah, you're like Hacksaw Ridge and Saving Private Ryan and stuff like that, where they're trying to make an entertainment piece out of war.
Inglourious Bastards?
That's Inglourious Bastards is
like exploitation sort of movie, isn't it?
Yeah. That's sort of like balance, like that's like half. It's almost, that's sort of like that's basically trying to do comedy, definitely, but it also does the gratuitous violence thing as well, to try to make it an entertainment piece. I'm not obviously talking about the Tarantino version, but I've never seen the original one.
No, I've never seen the original.
When was the original one put out? Was it like in the 60s? Or?
That'll be the 60s, 70s, during that exploitation period. Like coming out with the original Django as well and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've never seen the original Django. I've only seen Django Unchained.
But yeah, for my takeaway from this was it's basically just like the Peter Sellers show, where you just go, look how good Peter Sellers is at doing impressions and voices and things like that.
I like the RAF captain. I thought he was good.
Yeah, well, he's
remember,
played
Jack, I was feeding you.
Yeah, I mean, all his characters are great. The pilot,
he's good.
He's excellent. He's in Blazing Saddles, isn't he?
Yeah, shit, you could have a good night in Vegas with this.
Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
Do you know that line? Guy could have a good night in Vegas for this. Originally, that was a guy could have a good night in Dallas with this, and when Kennedy got shot, they had to go back and change that line.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So in terms of like the performances, I'd say they were good performances. There's loads of people in the film, but most of them don't have any speaking parts. There's like everyone in the war room is just standing, because like the shots where there's like maybe 50 men on screen.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean,
and they're just standing there.
In that war room, who actually speaks? Peter Sellers, the Russian ambassador, Peter Sellers again, and then George C. Scott's that general character.
Yeah, they're the only people. Everybody else is just standing around in suits, either smoking or standing over people's shoulders.
I'm pretty sure there's one point where George C. Scott's character talks to another like official in there, and the guy just looks at him and walks away. Obviously, hasn't paid him for any lines.
Do you know the bit where he falls over when he's showing the big board? He goes, "You'll see the big board," and he rolls over. That wasn't in. He really did. He really fell over.
reminds us of the accidental things that happen when they're doing shoots like that. Because in the Birdcage, I think Robin Williams accidentally slipped over, and they just kept rolling.
Oh, when he was trying to drink the wine, he just went boom.
Robin Williams was just like, I'm just rolling with this. We'll just carry on, and just literally didn't. And everybody else is sitting there trying to be dead serious. Yeah.
But the war room and the way a lot of that was shot as well, like the ratio, the camera width that he shot everything on. They said it was like ultra wide. So like these big wide shots that you get of the table and all of that, and you can see those 50 people all sitting there. It's there's not supposed to be one particular character in focus at any one time. So you've got George C. Scott, Peter Sellers, and the Russian ambassador, and they're all in the frame together. But if it was a modern film, it would be cutting from person to person when they were speaking. But they just have everybody in shot, so no one's in focus to give the impression.
No one's in charge.
No one's in charge. Yeah. You're just kind of watching all of these people just
trying to react to the situation. Really.
Yeah.
I think the message of the film isn't hit home as hard as it could have been, and I think it was basically just like limited by the technology at the time. Because when you see the cowboy riding the nuclear bomb down to Earth, then
deeply phallic,
and then okay, look, and then the explosion, and then it cuts back to the war room, and there's a small scene, and then you see various different shots of nuclear bombs going off.
Yeah.
Or like obviously old test footage. I think that's meant to represent the doomsday devices going off where all the bombs go off.
Yeah.
See, if that was done, if you remade this film now, that would have been done in a different way and would have all been done with CGI. And it would have been something like, did you watch Fallout?
Yeah.
TV show. Like the opening scene of that. Because had it been filmed like that, which obviously couldn't do it at the time, it would have made it much more obvious that the doomsday device had gone off.
Yeah,
because because of the limitations of the film or the limitations of the technology at the time, they obviously can't create explosions the way you would have wanted it. Because if you had a wide shot of the Earth and you can see nuclear bombs going off 20, 30 miles apart.
Well, I think
you'd know exactly what happened, but when they just show test footage,
yeah. But I think that's not the point. I think the point they're just trying to say, well, this is a shot we can't have. What instills fear and drives the imagination for presenting it that it has happened? Do you know what I mean?
So you just show. Well, there was plenty of test footage back then. I mean, they've been testing bombs since 1944, haven't they? Or 1945. So
supposedly, all the footage that was playing at the end over Vera Lynn's "We'll Meet Again," it was all time synced, and every single explosion which had gone off in that sequence was every single piece of test footage of every single bomb which had gone off up until that point.
Yeah, I well believe it. I mean. But I don't think it worked properly. To get the message home, having a guy riding a nuclear bomb as a rodeo bull doesn't really...
We're distracted from the grand gravitas of that.
That was like the last ridiculous thing that could have happened.
Oh, yeah.
Before the end of the world. Because the whole thing was ridiculous. And to just go, oh, well, we've lost the plane... And that's not ridiculous enough. What the most ridiculous thing would to be for the guy to like ride the bomb into the ground.
But the thing is when you look at the way it was all put together for the final sort of like production of it, you're going, oh, right, okay. It's as if like there's a bit of anger comes across as to the point of going, how ridiculous does this need to be? As if
that is the whole point of the movie, isn't it? Is that this is a ridiculous situation. How have we got ourselves here? It doesn't need to happen like this. It's bloody stupid if it happens. It's all crazy.
Yeah.
Let's do everything stupid. Let's throw comedy into it and come up with a film that just shows how pathetic it all is.
I think what Kubrick was trying to do was have the same type of ending as what Blackadder Goes Forth had.
Yeah.
But Kubrick didn't pull it off, whereas Blackadder Goes Forth did pull it off.
I agree, yeah. I agree with that. It wasn't as somber as it could have been.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know. Vera Lynn, I hate that song. That song's not a somber song, though.
I hate that song.
It's all about hope for the future, isn't it?
Well, to bring this back to sex, the opening titles were a plane refueling another plane with a telescopic thing.
Oh my god!
Oh
Right.
God,
So, like,
he's seeing dicks and vaginas everywhere, isn't it?
But it was a love song playing over the top of it. So that was on purpose. That was on purpose. That's
He
not
might
just me.
have a point, lads. He might have a point.
I'm not just saying things.
But and then when you first see George C. Scott's character for the first time,
He's in bed with the woman.
He's
yeah.
in bed with a woman. It's all
secretary.
It's all about sex and male virility and impotence.
He was actually in the shower.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, but you'd obviously just getting off the job. And
Just getting off the job. Anything else, or do we discuss our next movie?
Well, so I just wondered, because no one's mentioned this, about the fact that obviously it's a black and white film. But if you look at the colours in the black and white that's perceived, did anybody notice how the contrast of the darks are really, really heavily there? But
everyone comes out of the shadows,
Yeah, but it's
especially in the war room.
Well, I think it's to do with every time they show the footage of explosions. I think it's meant to give that sort of a bit more gravitas. So if imagine if you're in the cinema in a dark room and you're watching this going on, it's like everybody's in the dark shadows and all the rest of it. So I think a lot of the things that people were wearing, you're going to be in black and white, don't worry. So I don't think dress them, in certain colours and stuff like that. I think it's all being shot as if to say you're either in a blue suit or in a black suit. Nobody really cares because it's going to be black and white.
But supposedly it does matter what colours people wear when they're going to shoot a black and white film, because it's not just a case of take the image and desaturate it.
Have you ever seen the making of Sin City? Sin City is very much a very high contrast black and white movie with hints of colour in it. But if you watch them in the making of, the colour, like what you think they're wearing, looks totally different when they're acting in it. Like some of their coats were like almost metallic. So they came off over so they gave a wet look in the black and white and all that kind of stuff. And it was
the thing is the black.
clever,
the thing is with black and white. If you watching it for long enough, your brain starts to fill in colours. Because if you watch, it happens with me loads of times when I'm watching old films where you think, my brain thinks that guy's wearing a blue suit, that guy's wearing a black suit, and your brain can tell.
Well, you're right in what you say, because the bit where between the generals who's gone mad and the British Air, is it the Air Force captain or something like that?
Yeah, he's
Major or something. His suit's blue because he's in the Air Force, and the general might have a green suit because he's in the army or something like that. He might be in the Air Force, but I don't know what colour American Air Force suits are. I think they might be black or something like that. I don't know. But you're right in what you say. Your brain does fill it in.
I mean, you've got to think that's obviously at the time it'll have been like a choice from whether they shot it in colour or in black and white. And
it would have been, yeah. I mean, there was still a lot of films coming out in black and white at that time. Some of them were choices, some of them were cost. But
I generally get the feeling that was choice. Yeah,
it's with Kubrick. It probably was.
Yeah.
Even in his early days, I get the feeling. Although, to be honest, I think all of his films to that point had been black and white. So Lolita was black and white. Path to Glory was black and white. So maybe he just had an affiliation with it or something like that.
If it's like anything of today's value, it's like, what's that? You want it in Panavision? You want it shot like this? Oh, it's cost. Do you know what I mean? It's like...
It's all cost.
Yeah, there might have actually been a cost implication at the time as well.
There would have been a cost implication. There was one particular film, I can't remember what it's called, where for 70%, I think it was a French film, 70% of the movie was all in colour. And then something happens at the 70% mark where it changes from colour to black and white. And the rest of the movie's in black and white. And it was hailed as like, oh, it's a great visual representation of his mindset change and all this kind of shit. And then when it came out, they just ran out of money for the colour film, and they just had to go to black and white, and they just passed it off as that. But they had no plans to do it. It was just totally cost.
You can imagine the director going, "Oh Jesus Christ, we've run out of colour film."
Better disease.
furiously rubbing his temples, going, "It's his change of mindset. Yes, it's going to be fine. We can totally get around this."
It's like, but we have to scrap the last 10 minutes in colour just to get him back to the point of changing mindset.
Do a Google search, try and find out which film changed from colour to black and white, and it was because of cost implications or something like that, or because they've run out of colour films.
Well, Wizard of Oz did that for the opposite reason. It was to show off Technicolor, wasn't it?
That was I feel like Wizard of Oz was like a technical showcase of its day.
Well, do you know how it's all like in sepia tone at the very beginning? Then there's a bit where she opens the door to thingy. All of that was
painted.
So everything was done in sepia tone on the opposite side of the door, so it was still in colour, but it'd been matched to the look of the film. I thought,
her outfit was all in sepia and everything, and it was really clever.
That's very clever.
But that's going back to like people with really good design ideas and sort of bringing.
Clerks was shot in black and white originally.
Yeah, that's not it though. I bought Clerks yesterday on Blu-ray. Actually, I was out in Washington and I saw it in CX for like £6, and I thought, I'm having that.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's good. Honestly, it's hilarious.
Anyway, we're going to have to do our 4 takes on this. What are our favourite parts?
Okay, favourite part is I can't get over that line, that "Good Night in Vegas" line. That's my favourite part. I love it. I don't really feel that there's bad parts to this movie. It's just all solid all the way through.
Yeah, there's no bad scenes.
No. I think every scene has a purpose. It's not like there's no very exciting Matrix moment. None of that shit.
I mean, my favourite parts, any of the parts with Dr. Strangelove, I think he's just amazing.
The parts that I don't like and the parts that I feel are just not, I think it's just slow. For the build up and trying to find out, like when you drop into it and you're like, you know, it's the delivery of everything that's mentioned is really slow paced, and you're thinking, well, hang on, this is slow, but like you're talking about the end of the world. And if you look at most films nowadays, you're like, end of the world. Well,
it's not a Mission Impossible film, though. It's not a Mission Impossible film, though.
It's not. It's not.
It's a satire.
It's a satire, but that was the only thing. It was just too slow for me. And that was the only thing I didn't like about it. I think the humour.
So what you're saying is what you didn't like. What you don't like about it is you didn't like it.
No, it's not that. I like the.
You can see you didn't like it. Adam.
You don't have to. We're not going to kick the shit out of you.
No, but I'm
opinion.
No,
the comment section,
not while we're being bloody recorded, anyway.
No, but as I say, it's just one segment of that I don't like. It's just the slow progressiveness of it. I think if it was faster, and obviously the punchlines of certain elements and the jokes.
Okay, he thinks it's too slow. Right, that's fine.
It's slow.
My favourite part was where the president's speaking to the president of Russia. So you never hear the other side of the.
Well, let me finish.
Yeah, you never hear the other side of the conversation. But it's like, I do like you, Dimitri. I won't just call you to say hi. No, but they're all like really insecure.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just so you know, I think he's drunk.
Right. That was Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. What's our next movie going to be?
Anyone got any ideas?
Well, I reckon we should watch something a little less smutty than bloody Dr. Strangelove, because there was just sex everywhere.
Showgirls it is. We've done the sci-fi, we've done the satire, we've done a bit of horror. Why don't we go for something just like stupid, like balls out action movie?
Action movie,
Last Action Hero.
Should we all go and see the new Mission Impossible?
Satire. I went to see it yesterday.
Without us?
I went with the wife, and I have to be honest and say this is the 8th Mission Impossible movie, and I think it's a really good series of movie. I think 2's the worst one, but it's not terrible. It's just of its time. I feel that the final reckoning, as it's called now, was a bit. I found it a bit of a slog to get through the first part of it, but then after that, it's mint. And there was a point in the movie near the end where my brain relayed a message to us. It just went to yourself, Martin, you have stopped breathing please take a breath. I was like there's an action scene at the end which was like fantastic. And you know, like Tom Cruise, he's mental with his stunts, and he's doing this stuff real, and you're watching it, and it's just like I think I did stop breathing at one point. I was just like, just proper focusing so much on it.
Unstoppable
With a train. Top Gun. That's it. One of his.
I've never seen the original Top Gun.
The original Top Gun. It's solid. I'll tell you what though. Talk about a sequel that surpasses the original.
Oh yeah, I saw
Top Gun is
I saw
good.
the sequel and it was
Maverick
really good.
is fantastic. What a movie.
I've never seen it.
We're going to do the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
With the original or the Tony Scott one? I'm hearing action, but I'm not feeling action with these movies. They are action movies, but I'm talking about a nuts.
Last Action Hero.
That's not action.
What about?
I love it.
What was the one? The Schwarzenegger one where he played a Russian.
Oh,
Red Heat.
Red Heat. I feel those things have aged badly, but I still watch them. I tell you what I watched the other day.
They've aged so badly, but I mean, you just can't stop watching them.
I watched a movie called Hard Target the other night, which is a Van Damme movie directed by John Woo.
Was that like 1980? Was that 1980?
I'm going to say that.
1980s?
No, I'm going to say that's a 90s movie.
The early 90s.
It's basically it's set in New Orleans, and it's about like rich people hunting poor people, basically, for sport.
Universal Soldier.
Universal Soldier's a cracker. That is a good one.
Oh, is that the one where Van Damme, and not Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren's wearing everybody's ears?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favourite Van Damme movies is a film called Double Impact, where he plays twins. So it's double Van Damme.
Oh, yeah. I think I have seen that one.
I wouldn't mind watching a Van Damme film because, as I say, I haven't watched a lot of them.
All right, let's chuck some Van Damme. So,
I'm the one
Street
person
Fighter.
asking.
Street Fighter is abysmal, but I actually kind of like it.
Is that the one that's got Kylie Minogue in?
Yeah, Kylie Minogue plays Cammy, doesn't she? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cammy, yeah. So, I mean, Street Fighter, Universal Soldier, blah, 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 Double Impact. There's things like the kickboxer movies, AWOL. There's a few.
Oh, man, introduce me to Van Damme. What we're going to watch?
Tell you what, Double Impact. Let's go for it.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it because I haven't seen it.
Probably 80s. There's one bit in the movie, I'll tell you how, there's one bit in the movie where he sneaks up behind someone. Because, you know, in the 80s, it was so easy to break a person's neck. You know, it's so easy. And honestly, he does this. He just walks up beside him, puts like a finger on the front of the head and like taps the back of the neck, and all you hear is... It's like, yes.
Oh, proper cheesy. Right, okay.
Cool. Thanks for your time. That was the 4 Takes Movie Podcast. I've been Martin.
I've been Luke.
I'm David still.
And I'm still up.
Peace out.